The anomaly of Trump's leadership should not lead to an underestimation of the adjustment currently underway in his strategic approach to avoid counterproductive effects both domestically and internationally. Now it is important to understand how much this adjustment might change the scenario. Recent data indicate that Washington was surprised by China's symmetrical response to the economic war launched by America against Beijing, as it expected an accommodating concession from Beijing itself due to its overcapacity issue. If this is the case, while not excluding a compromise since confidential contacts have not been interrupted, this largely explains a variation in the U.S. strategy. It can no longer afford excessive divergence from its allies, particularly the EU and Japan, as it needs them. This should have a softening impact on tariff negotiations with them. In other words, America, despite being a superpower, is too small to manage a bipolar conflict with China without converging allies. And it may not be enough. Without less convergence between Russia and China and greater influence over key nations in the global south, it will be difficult for America to gain an advantage in the bipolar conflict. Several governments have already noticed this. Tokyo and Seoul have sketched an economic agreement with Beijing, emphasizing a handshake among the three representatives as a deterrent signal to America during tariff negotiations. Similarly, India has perceived its growing importance as useful in mitigating U.S. tariffs and taking a key position for the geoeconomically significant infrastructure plan to connect the Indo-Pacific, the Mediterranean, and the Atlantic Americas, IMEC, which also has geopolitical significance for converging relations with Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, and for joint actions towards Africa aimed at reducing Chinese influence on that continent. Additionally, there is U.S. pressure to prevent Iran from becoming a nuclear power as a security guarantee for Sunni Arab nations. In summary, America is forced into greater global engagement to restrict China's competitive influence. Similarly, China itself must strengthen its global penetration capacity in contrast. Such a scenario was generically anticipated in the 2013 research program Conflictual Deglobalization and Selective Reglobalization, and it now appears to be materializing. However, maintaining at least part of global economic flows will be necessary to avoid depressive risks. On one hand, competition between two global blocs could lead to positive effects through the acceleration of the technological revolution and economic and monetary efficiency within each bloc. But it also poses risks of implosion and kinetic conflicts. Therefore, negotiating risk reduction between a U.S. strengthened by convergence with its allies and a China that more realistically calculates the limits of its strength is a matter of geopolitical research and action.